Hey everyone, welcome to the stream. Hopefully everyone's having a great weekend. We should be able to run the belts today. Hey Pixel, welcome. Should be able to get the belts all finished up. I did do a little bit of work off stream. I mounted the motors, so we'll chat about that. Hey Chaz. We'll chat about the motors and all that kind of stuff and mounting them. We're going to run our XY belts. And then I have enough parts to assemble one gear reduction for the Z. So not a crazy amount of stuff, but I have to order some more belts and I have to order some more pulleys. I'm out of those, so I need a bunch of 20 tooth pulleys for the gear reduction Z. So hey Mitsubishi, welcome. But we are making quite a bit of progress. Next stream, whenever that happens, we should be able to get the whole Z kind of sorted out. I did order the bed, so hopefully that will be here pretty soon. I'll make a beacon mount, and like we're gonna be pretty close to printing with this thing here, which I'm very excited to do. And then I'll have to start thinking about like bottom panels and stuff like that, and permanently mounting things. I'll just like wire stuff up temporarily so that I can get it printing and stuff like that before I do a YouTube video showing the printer off completely in its entirety. So I most likely will make a part 2 YouTube video now on this, now that the XY will be done essentially, so I can chat a bit more about that. And go from there. So, but yeah, today we are going to be finishing up the belts. First thing we should chat about is the motor mounts. So SimpleCore is a little bit unique in the fact that the motors are mounted on the front, and this is to get rid of the belt path in your view, in your line of sight, while still having minimal bearings. We're not rerouting the belt so that it runs in the back and has the motors in the back. That takes extra bearings. It complicates things. I wanted this printer to be as simple as possible. So the motors are in the front, and then that naturally just puts the belt at the back, and then we don't have to worry about adding bearing stacks and all that type of thing. So it simplifies the rear section of the printer here. We literally just have these very simple idler mounts, and we don't need like to reroute the belts and change directions and all that kind of stuff to get the belt out of the view. And honestly, the motors don't really hinder you much sticking out in the front. These have some adjustability, kind of. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but really, this is a nice, simple way, and probably one of the biggest parts of SimpleCore that makes it so simple is how the belts actually go. So, that being said, the order operations to actually install these motor mounts is a little bit unique. Basically, what you do is you're going to install the actual motor pods. And if you're using the double shear mounts, if I can get an actual view on one of these, we'll see here. Yeah, that's a better view on the side. Hey Buzz, welcome. You can see here this gray plastic bearing holder. This is for technically the optional double shear add-on. So basically what you need to do is you need to install this double shear mount to your motor pod, and then install the motor pod to the frame first before you attach the motor. And that's because there is an M5 bolt right here. You cannot mount this while the motor is mounted onto it. So you have to mount the motor mount first. You want to have your double shear mounted, and then basically you flip it upside down, and then you can bolt your motor to this very easily. So still simple, but you cannot mount the motors to the mounts and then mount it to the frame. It just doesn't work that way. So just slightly different there. I'll probably mention that also in the video as well, just so people know the order operation, but we can see here all of my motors have the double shear add-ons with bearings. We're just using F695 bearings on the bottom, and this just gives it a little bit more assistance in keeping that motor shaft from deflecting. Probably not entirely necessary, but I wanted to build this as intended, so I did add those onto there. So we have those all mounted, tightened, everything like that. I do need to install 2 M5s still right here, so we're going to do that before we forget. I have all installed all the M5 bolts here, and this mount is nice and rigid and secure. So what we'll do is I am going to flip this over so that we can get access to the remaining 2 M5 bolts, which are right here. These are M5 by 16, which I should have 2 of them ready to go here, if I can find the other one. There it is. And you can't install all of the M5s first and then mount it to the frame. You only can do one side at a time, and then you have to slide in the M5 nuts later on. The other option would be to add slide-in nuts into the frame before you assemble it, so that then there's nuts ready to go. It's not a big deal. We have space. We can slide these into their appropriate holes here. And basically we just line it up. And then we can put in a M5 by 16. And then this way it makes sure that the mounts are bolted on each side. And you're not going to deflect or anything like that when we're tensioning belts or when we're printing. There we go. Hey, welcome. All right. Okay. Officially have all the both XY motors mounted properly. Now we are going to move on to the belt here, which I can just tighten a bit. So, hopefully we can get a good view or a better view of the rear here. So on the very back of the EVA 3 is our Core XY backpack, whatever you want to call it. This is where the belt tensioning happens on this printer. Now, I was right in the previous stream. You do need different belt grabbers. You need reverse tooth belt grabbers. These are available on printables. I will include them in the STL files. I believe VZBot uses these as well, but basically the teeth are on the other side is the whole point. Nothing else about this changes. It's just the teeth flip from this side to this side. And that is because, again, our motors are on the front, and that basically changes how the teeth face. So that is something you need to know. You cannot use the EVA 3 belt grabbers. The teeth face the wrong direction. So I've ran my top belt here. I was just testing. Again, I wanted to make sure I had the belt grabbers printed out and I was correct and all this kind of stuff. So this is a very easy printer to route the Core XY belt because everything is so accessible. You have a lot of space in the carriages to get your fingers in and actually direct the belt properly. It's really, really simple to actually run the belts. And the beauty of this printer is you can see one motor is higher than the other, so you know what your top motor belt is and your lower belt is. Very easy just by looking at the motors. So it makes it much easier to route the belts. So I started in the front here with my AT4 adapter, and I just simply ran it through around the idler here, around the motor pulley, all the way to the back, in through the actual idler mount, up here, and then around this into the back of the actual EVA carriage. It's very, very simple. Once you run your one belt, it makes everything really, really obvious on where it goes. So I need to just trim this belt down. Let's see if I can maybe get the camera just slightly better as far as angle wise. I don't know if I can go probably as high as it goes. The belt will be in the way a little bit, but you might get a bit better idea on what we're doing here. So I do need to trim my belt a little bit more. It's slightly too long, so we're going to actually trim this up just a little bit. So it's pretty straightforward. We have our belt here, which I'm not going to fully install into the teeth because I'm cutting these, but basically this is going to go into this carriage, and you can kind of see it's a bit too long. We want all the room we can possibly get with tensioning, so we need to cut off probably 3 or 4 teeth. So I'm going to just cut this a bit shorter. And we're going to go ahead and install the teeth. So the belt just slides right in to the belt grabber, and then pretty straightforward here. It goes into a slot in the side of this, and then we can actually tension the belts. So you can see that. These modified belt grabbers have a tiny little support piece that we need to just clip off here. So the belt grabbers take M5 lock nuts. Once I find my bag of M5 lock nuts. And then it's M5 by 40 bolts that actually tension everything. So we're going to install our nut into the carriage there. We're going to kind of push it into its slot, and then we are going to take a M5 by 40 bolt. We're going to slide it through the other side here, and then it should go into our nut. We're just going to make sure our belt is all where it should be. All that looks good. I am going to have to adjust the motor height off camera. So I will have to pop these motors off, but that's not a big deal. I just want to make sure that I have all of these ran correctly and I have all the parts and stuff like that. So let's see if we can actually get this to... Yeah, so you can see we're using our M5 bolt here to tension, and I'm gonna just we might even need to trim more of the belt, but I'm not too sure because it's still quite loose. I'm I'm not obviously tensioning the belts now because I don't have both ran, but that's looking good. But I can see that my motor pod in the front here is, it's probably 2-3 millimeters too high, which is not a big deal. I can easily adjust that, but I do have to remove the motor to do so. But that's not a big deal for now. I just wanted to make sure that our belt grabbers worked and everything like that. So that's good. Everything's lined up correctly on the bearings and such. Actually kind of curious here how much more. Yeah, so I do have a bit more tensioning, which might be perfect. It might not. I might have to trim this belt down a little bit and go there. Awesome, Killa. Yeah. This is going to be a really cool printer, and I'm very excited to have it as like one of my workhorses. I think I've already got a project for it ready to start printing on, so hopefully we will be doing that. But yeah, everything is looking quite nice. Like I say, I'll have to adjust this motor mount and go from there. So that's not a big deal, but everything else is looking good for the rest of the printer. All right. Yeah, I'll see what kind of tensioning I get. It'll be interesting to see what the input shaping graphs look like. So that's our upper Core XY belt there. So we're gonna run our lower belt. I usually do it the lazy way. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to route my belts through their holder here. It's very possible I'm going to change the front of this AT4 mount. Again, this is not standard. I'm using the AT4 tool head. I think most people are going to use the EVA 3 tool head, but I will offer the files up for this tool head, for the AT4 tool head if you want. But right now, these belts are held on with zip ties, and like I say, the belts flip the wrong way. So the teeth are not meshing together. The teeth don't come together like this because the belts are actually flipped the other way around. So I'm going to probably use Apex clips. Yeah, I should, but I never do that. And it's honestly not too big of a deal. So I just manually run the belt very inefficiently, and then I cut it. But yes, it definitely would be ideal if you had belts the exact same length. But I can use something like Shake Tune to get the belts dialed in a bit better and make sure that they're as even as possible. So I just hate the tedium of removing belts after you install them. Okay, so we're gonna cut it about here. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and it is the proper way to do that, but all right, so we are going to route our belts here. And I put this one in incorrect. Need to flip So again, it's pretty easy to do this. You basically just make sure the teeth are facing the correct way. Let's not loop it around the frame. That would be ideal. All right, so let's get these through the carriages. Again, incredibly easy to route the belts on SimpleCore. Yeah, my motor mount here is way too high on the, I guess it's not crazy high or anything like that, but it needs to go down. It might even have to touch the rail for this one, but we'll see. So it's again, we can use our fingers to deflect the belt through very, very easily on this. And there we go. Our bottom belt has been routed. Yeah, I checked the measurements, Chaz, in the CAD. They're incorrect. Well, I should say they're incorrect for how my pulleys are actually mounted. But I did measure the motor mount from the actual 2020 and it was wrong. I should have probably measured the pulley height to the 2020 instead. But again, it's not a big deal. I will just lower the mount a little bit. But I did try to use the measurements in the CAD from the height, but I think the pulleys are a different height on the motor. So the motor mount height was not, didn't help me out, I guess is the best way I can put that. All right, so I need to cut out a bit of this. If I use this length right now, we have no tensioning room basically. So I'm going to cut out 3 or 4. No, I actually mounted the pulleys the correct way. There's no room to mount the pulleys the other way with the double shear. I'll show you a better view here in a second. I'm just going to get this slid in here. I still think I need to cut out. Hey, welcome. Yeah, I probably need to still even cut this. So Chaz, you can see my motor pulley here. The teeth are on the very bottom. You cannot flip the pulleys the other way around. The teeth will be way too high up and you can't lower the motor down enough. So this is good, this is right, but I measured here, it was like 10.55 millimeters. This is still too high for the belt. I don't even think you can see it on camera. Yeah, and like I say, the heights aren't off by much. They're off by like 2 or 3 millimeters. Actually, even that one looks okay now that I've ran the belts. This one looks all right. It's just the one side that's high, I think. So, yeah. Yeah, this side is actually not bad. But anyways, yeah, this one is just off. It's off by, yeah, 2 or 3 millimeters. I don't know if you'll be able to see on the Yeah, you can't even see it on stream on the cameras, um, but yeah, I should still have plenty of room to move them down. Um, but yeah, that's not a big deal. Actually, this is much easier for me to see the belt here, so I need to cut out a bunch more here from this grabber. But everything else is working well. That, I guess, is the disadvantage of the double shear like plates, because you can't adjust the pulley height. But that's not a big deal. So we'll just... I can easily change the height. I want to make sure as many teeth are engaged as possible on this belt grabber. And then we will slide it in. Yeah, that's perfect right there. So I'm going to add my M5. Also, the motor or the bearing plate chas, these probably need to be 2 or 3 millimeters thicker to make a more standard bolt size. I had to use M3 nuts as spacers because these were too tall, and then the other bolts I had too short. So like you have to have a weird in-between size for this to work. So these motor plates should be probably 3 millimeters thicker. Again, I'll just adjust that when I put the files on printables. Yeah, ideally it should go right here. It should go under the motor. That would be perfect. Then you could actually adjust the motor up and down. So yeah, that should be a revision that we do. Just pop it here. Because that's the only thing that's preventing the motor from being adjustable on the fly with the mount. So again, I can make that change as well. I'm not going to bother reprinting my mounts, but the parts on printables, I do want them to be the correct ones. So yeah, move that bolt down would be a lifesaver for people because then they can adjust the height of the motor. All right, pop in our M5 belt tensioning bolt. And there we go. So cut that. Now that I have all the belts ran, it looks like these rear idlers need to move forward or need to move back. I will you can ignore the front ones because I don't have the belt tight and not even don't even recall which way I want this to go. Yeah, that there is much better. Anyways, So Chaz, hopefully you can see. You can see the rear belt path there. The idlers are too far forward. I like having the motor height adjustable for fine tuning. So the rear belts need to be, the rear idlers need to be moved. I gotta just zip tie the front of my belt here. Just fix this here. Again, and I'm just temporarily zip tying because I'm going to be changing the front plate to Apex clips, but let me just and I can take like pictures for you off stream, which will make it easier. But yeah, the belt's going outward basically. The front belt looks really good, at least for my adapter. So yeah, I can angle that up, but that's why I'm building this, right? Is to so yeah, you can kind of see. So easy fix, really fast prints. So that's the whole idea. I wanted to build this before I put everything up on printables and then have to fix it later on. So maybe while I'm doing that, I will print the updated motor mounts. Hey, welcome. Yep, this is why prototyping is important. Yeah, very easy stuff to fix. Most everything else looks good to me. Like I say, I just need to adjust these motor mounts a bit better. So that is what I'm going to do there. But importantly, the belt grabbers work. My AT4 tool head looks good. And I probably have room for Apex clips to fit into there, which is a good sign. So I will fix that and go from there for sure. All right. Yeah, you can really get into all sorts of different stuff. Because idler heights are so different. Like there's 8.5, 9. These rear ones here are 10 millimeters tall. So yeah, it's as long as we specify in the bill of materials exactly the height, it should be okay. But I like how it is. It works very well. Yeah, iterating and prototyping is one of the fun parts, though. You get to see something evolve and progress over time, which is really, really fun. So, but yeah, 90% of this is looking great. Really, really easy to run the belts. The EVA tensioning system is really, really nice. And because I'm using the AT4 tool head, we don't have a fan or ducting or anything back here, which is nice. So there's still plenty of room back here. I don't know why yeah, that's because my motors are not the right height. But yeah, so the belts are all ran. Everything is running nice and smoothly. Just need to get these motor heights good. Nice. Yeah, it's very satisfying when you get to the end of a project and everything's working well. Okay, so XY belts are ran. We'll make some quick adjustments to the actual carriages. Probably just move these idlers back a little bit more to get the spacing correctly with that EVA carriage, which is an easy one. And then we'll make an adjustment on these so that there's plenty of room for that M5 bolt to go below the motor, and then that way we can tension the motors on the fly, which is going to be a really nice. So we are good there. What we're going to do now is I'm going to assemble one of the gear drives. So this is the Ian 4-to-1 gear reduction. I am using printed 80 millimeter or 80 tooth pulleys. These are the Voron ones, just off printables. So what we're going to do is we're going to assemble one of those. I'm going to set this down beside me. I think I got room, so we can work on the gear reduction a bit better, and I have actual space to do stuff. So all one piece mount here. I'm gonna actually move this back a bit so it's not right in my face. So it's an all one piece mount. It's very simple. 2 bearings, 30 millimeter pin. I think these are 30 millimeters. No, these are longer than that. 60 millimeters, I believe these are. So again, I just got these off Amazon. They fit perfectly fine. I'm going to be swapping out my pulley though, because I don't have very many pulleys, and I'm going to just use a longer one for the motor, which is perfectly fine. And then that way I can use the smaller one for the middle shaft. So I'm going to just use a 10 millimeter tall pulley, which is perfectly fine. The STLs for this, I will give you links. This is not my design, so I am not including it in printables. But on the description, I will include all the links to these type of parts, if you do want to use these instead of buying them. But this is a Voron part, so I'm not including it in the printables. And yeah, really nice 80 tooth pulleys. These are like $10 a piece in Canada. So this is like $30. So I'm saving $30 by just printing these 80 tooth ones out. There's quite a few different versions of these. The Voron one works with just using a 20 tooth pulley popping the top of it off and it slides in here. So it works really well. Okay, and then basically this is pretty straightforward. Actually, I'm going to get my bearing in here first. So again, 2 bearings go in here. So you can see 1 bearing on each side there. Really, really simple, which again is the theme of this guy. And then I'm going to I need to loosen these up. All right. I did print out some spacers, and you could use washers as well. Just want to actually see what the spacing is looking like here. All the spacers really do are going to hold the bearings in, but they have a pretty good fitment, so. So that's how the gear reduction works. It's really, really simple. I'll attach, I only have one 180 millimeter belt, so I can only build one of these, but we'll attach a belt here so you can see. So the motor does have tension adjustment on here. Basically, you're going to lock it in its final position though. And then, yeah, we have a 4-to-1 gear reduction, really, really simple. Our Z belt is going to go around this, and then this will just mount to the frame. Really, really easy. So I am going to use, remember the length of these. This is way too long. I think it's the 16s. But yeah, if you can get the 80 tooth gears for a good price locally, metal is always best, but I know people have used the printed ones just perfectly fine. Yeah, 4-to-1 is good. 5-to-1 is perfect for Pegasus. I don't think 4-to-1 is enough to hold up the gantry, but it should be good. But yeah, there we go. Very simple 4-to-1 gear reduction for SimpleCore, thanks to Ian. So I am going to just set this aside. I will temporarily mount it. This is garbage. So, if I bring this up here, this is going to go like this. Very simple, and you do have some forward and back adjustment, so you can fine tune where your bed is, which is also really nice. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think the printed ones will be great, and At least in Canada, it saves me like 30 bucks, so I will take it. Again, I'm not bolting this 100% down, I don't think. Oops. Gonna use some longer ones here. Get my other M5 bolts. No, I have them right here. We're gonna use these ones. Yeah. 80-tooth pulleys can be expensive, that's for sure. Okay. So yeah, I'm most likely not going to take this back off, but I'm not setting its position permanently yet because I don't have the other parts printed. And I do not have linear rails yet for the Z, so I actually have to order that as well too. So I got to order my linear rails. Okay, so put that in. And there we go. We have our 4-to-1 gear reduction for Z. Nice and rigid. There's bolts that go on the bottom. And like I say, you can adjust this. This is the piece here for the actual linear rail that will mount up to here. So yeah, really, really simple belted Z. And in my opinion, belted Z is the way to go. We don't have to worry about lead screws and all sorts of anti-backlash stuff and whatnot. And with this 4-to-1 gear reduction, we do get, you know, some precision. It's not necessarily needed, but it will prevent the bed from falling. Thanks, Kanarog. Thanks for gifting out some memberships. Appreciated. So yeah. Really happy. Again, these are very easy just to assemble, and it will make having that gear reduction really nice on the latest version of SimpleCore. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I say, this thing is now starting to come along quite quickly. This is the rear of the printer. Let's actually change this to the correct orientation. So we'll do that, and I will clip these just because I'm redoing this AT4 mount anyways. And like I say, the AT4 is not standard. It's just what I'm using for this printer. And I am only doing one cowl. I am only doing the bamboo cowl for the AT4 tool head. So if you're going to use the AT4 tool head like me, make sure you're using a Bamboo Labs hot end. If not, you will have to modify the top of this thing. And then of course I am going Bowden, so I have my Bowden adapter, which just goes on like so, and boom. Benjamin, I never had issues on my SimpleCore with hundreds of hours on the floating Z. The bed is not trying to move. Like the bed is not really moving like this. There's no force being applied to this. So with the rails actually mounting, like floating in the air, honestly, it's not that big of a deal. And you can align them to the front of your extrusions. So yeah, it is definitely coming along now for sure. Like I say, this is actually looking like a printer. I'm very happy with the look, and this x-axis is so lightweight because it's Bowden and with the carbon tube. It should be a quick printer. Again, I'm not going for stupid speeds. This is just a workhorse. I should be able to put the LED in there as well. So yeah, my SimpleCore printed hundreds of hours like this, and I had a large 330 SimpleCore, which printed fine too. So yeah, and this is not even the location for this. This should go actually right here. But like I say, we're not focusing on the Z right now, anyways. Yeah, I gotta finish off my. I gotta finish this off. I gotta install everything correctly and mount the LEDs and all that kind of stuff and solder it and blah blah blah. So I gotta just find time to not be lazy and finish this off so it's ready to go. But basically, for the AT4 to work, you basically just shave the top of it off. Is the only thing I did to this. So if you do want to use cowls for different hot ends, you just need to make sure the top is flat. There's a bunch of added on stuff here on the AT4 tool head. You just have to make it flat with the extrusion mount, or the extruder mount, I should say. But yeah, this should be a really nice printer. Now that X and Y is working well, I'm excited to get this thing printing. Doing some tuning on it, and I'm really excited to use Beacon on it. So I do have to modify this. I am going to put this on printables as a separate part because this is a remix, right? I've remixed the AT4 tool head. It's not my design. I'm remixing the bottom piece. It's not my design, but I will put this on printables as a remixed part. So if people want to grab it and modify it from there, they can. It gives you a much better starting point if you're wanting to mod. But yeah, everything, we have nice clearances and all that stuff. Everything's looking good. We'll just fix that rear belt path, make that change to the motor mounts, which makes a lot of sense, and that'll be much nicer. So that's kind of what I wanted to do for the stream today. It's almost been an hour. Next stream, we should be 100% getting all the Z installed. My bed might not be here, but I do want to have the linear rails and belts all 100% installed and ready to go. And then just wait on my K1 bed. I did order a Funsor 110 volt K1 bed. So we'll be using an SSR, and I have a 200 watt Meanwell power supply that's going to go on there, and go from that. So I'll have to probably get a piece of acrylic. I don't think I have any acrylic left, so I'll cut the bottom panel. And I do believe I'm going to mount all the electronics in the bottom, so my acrylic will have all the holes in it to mount all of the mounts. And then I'm going to use an MKS Monster 8, which will probably go back here. Maybe. We'll have to see where. I might change the positioning down here a little bit so I don't have to run the wires as far, but I may or may not do that. I'm not too sure. No, I'm not going to use DIN rails. I'm just going to mount it to the panel. Because again, DIN rails are expensive through Amazon. They're like $20 plus. And then I need mounts for the DIN rails and all that kind of stuff. I can just mount the stuff to the bottom panel. It's much simpler. But yeah, very happy with how this is coming together. I was able to use some leftover extrusions. So like these top extrusions are V-slot, I think. These bottom ones here are V-slot, which again doesn't matter because I'm not mounting rails to these. So I had to order like a little bit of 2020 and that type of thing. And Velcro would probably work as well, for sure, mounting the stuff on the bottom. So I have the Meanwell. I've got the Monster. I've got Beacon. I have an SSR. I do need a outlet. And I don't know, Chaz, if there is a skirt with an outlet cutout. I might have to make one of those because I'll have my outlet on the back here. I still like the electronics on the back, easily accessible, and then the belt and the wires are really, really short. But I understand it's much cleaner for the bottom. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'll get a switch plate for that for the power. What else is there? Yeah, there's not much else. I've ordered all my extra pulleys that I need for the Z. I'm gonna have to order my MGN12 for the Z, which is not a big deal. My bed is on its way. I think I have extrusion for the bed as well. 250 and 250, I think, or 250 and 200. Yeah, so honestly, we'll do the Z next stream, and then if my bed shows up, the stream after that should be getting this printing, and the streaming part of this should be done, I think. But we'll see. I might not necessarily be able to do the stream every Saturday in a row because I do have some other printed 3D printer projects that I want to get going, but that's kind of like a wrap of what I wanted to do today. I pretty much have, I already have my fans modified. You do have to put backflow inhibitors in these fans, which I've already done that. I've glued those in. This is a Delta 2510 fan on the front, a 5-volt one, which is nice and quiet and is recommended by the AT4 tool head. I need to solder up the 3 LEDs, which I'm not really looking forward to, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. So I do need to take this all apart. Yeah, it'll just be a lot of little things to polish the printer up. Oh, okay, I see. Gotcha. But yeah, that's kind of where I'll end the stream there. Looks like I am going to reprint the motor mounts. Chaz will do an update for that, and then I'm going to have to reprint. I'm going to have to actually modify my carriages with the different, because I'm using my own custom bottom carriages for this carbon tube. So I'll modify the new ones for that and go from there. And I'm sure Chaz will post a new version of the CAD. And like once this is printing, I will make a printables page for all of you with all of the STLs or links to the STLs that I used. And go from there. And again, I think most people are going to use the EVA tool head, but if you're not going to, I of course will be including this if you're going to use a Bamboo Lab hot end. Hopefully more people modify it for that. But thanks everyone for watching. Again, just a short 1 hour stream. The stream with the Z probably will be a little bit longer just because we'll be able to assemble all 3 gearboxes, linear rails, run the belts, get all the tensioners and all that kind of stuff built and go from there. So, and I will do, once Chaz gets the CAD updated and I reprint all these, I will do a actual YouTube video walking around and talking about all this stuff, and then we'll go from there. So thanks everyone for watching, and yeah, I'll catch you guys all on the Discord. See you next